Hey everyone, it's Eric. It was a wonderful week for Baltimore sports fans, unless you root for the Ravens. We'll talk about that and Corey's Lions taking a tough loss, as well as the latest college basketball news. Stay tuned. Podcast. My name is Eric. I have hosting duties this week, and I am joined by Corey Puffett and Evan Ash as always. How are you fellas doing this fine Thursday evening?
Not great.
All right, you guys are sad.
Very sad.
It's been a rough go.
This week.
It's been a rough go, huh? Okay, well, we'll get to that later. That's obviously related to football. Corey's Lions took a heartbreaking loss. Evan's Ravens took an inexplicable loss, and I will have plenty to say about both, as I'm sure both of you fellas will.
Did you say an explicable loss?
Inexplicable
Okay.
loss.
I only heard the first sound. I didn't hear two of them.
You need to.
Have you tried listening to the podcast, Corey?
I haven't.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
I should try.
I heard just fine.
Oh, thank you, Evan, for hearing just fine. So we'll start with the NBA, just because we don't have a whole lot to talk about on that front, so let's knock that out really quickly. Last week, we talked about Joel Embiid and his MVP candidacy / non-candidacy due to concerns about him failing to reach the 65 game threshold, game played threshold, I should say.
And of course, we talked about the fact that maybe it was a little too early to be, putting out like sirens about that, because there was still plenty of time. He wasn't at that limit yet.
Right. Like he had 7 more games that he could afford to miss, basically, before he would lose out on that opportunity. Well, interestingly enough, sort of like last year, Embiid did not suit up against the Nuggets when they played in Denver. And this was sort of a weird situation because Embiid was not on the injury report heading into the game. It was virtually understood by everybody that Embiid was going to play. And then within 90 minutes before the game, it was like, oh, well, Joel is not playing. And Coach Malone aired some grievances about that, suggested that needs to be checked into. Well, Embiid didn't play that game, but then suited up against Golden State a couple of nights later, where he eventually left that game in the fourth quarter due to apparently either injuring or re-aggravating whatever knee injury he supposedly had before, which caused him to miss the Nuggets game. I don't really know why this is a big deal. It feels like maybe Embiid was forced back into action by something that somebody said, or maybe this MVP nonsense. I don't really get what the point of this was. If Embiid's hurt, don't play him, right? Like, if he's injured, then he's going to miss the games. He's not going to win the MVP, but you'll be in a better position if he's healthy in April, which we talked about as well. I think maybe that was last week or a couple weeks ago where I mentioned the Sixers are a dark horse team to win the Eastern Conference if Embiid is able to stay healthy for the postseason. Well, that's
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's not going to happen if he's out here limping around on a jacked up knee trying to win the MVP award. In fact, he's probably not going to win the MVP award because it's going to affect his performance, and then he's never going to be healthy for the playoffs, which means they're not going to go anywhere in the Eastern Conference. So it doesn't really add up to me. We did talk about, I mentioned after some complaints from, I think namely Rachel Nichols was the one that initially said something about how it's unjust or something like that about 65 game threshold costing you the MVP award. At which time I pointed out, look, it's only happened once ever, and it was over 40 years ago with Bill Walton, so it's kind of it's a non-point. But I will say this, I didn't really consider this when we talked about this. It's not just for the MVP, it's for all NBA selections as well that this applies.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
And so
Okay, that's different.
So yeah, you're going to have some dumbass looking all NBA teams if you nix people that played 60 plus games but didn't quite play 65. And you might think, well, why not? We're not talking about the best player in the league anymore. We're talking about the top 15. And we've seen Steph Curry make all NBA teams playing less than 60 games. That happens all the time. In fact, some of the best players that get injured during the season they're relegated to a third team or a second team selection because they missed time, but it's still understood they need to be on an all-NBA team. That's how you end up with guys like this version of Ben Simmons ending up on an all-NBA team. Although you don't have to worry about that because he doesn't play enough games either. But
even if he
on
did
this
play
week?
enough games, there's no way that Ben Simmons is going to be one of the replacement players.
he could be. He was.
No,
Before. He was an all-NBA selection multiple times.
Okay, but that was before they had this, so like that was just dumb inherently.
Sure.
Like this limitation or stipulation to the rules of being qualified for All NBA did not exist when Ben Simmons was on one of those teams.
I personally feel that
was back when you were a Ben Simmons apologist.
An apologist.
I wouldn't say I was an apologist. I said that he was a good player, and
Yes,
the fact that
exactly. You were an apologist.
That's not
Every
being an
time we talked
apologist.
about he can't shoot, you were like, no, he can shoot. He just doesn't shoot.
I did not say
Even
he
though
can
he's
shoot.
7 feet
You
tall.
did.
I
You
made-
definitely
no,
said he can shoot. He just doesn't
No,
shoot.
what I said was
You need to check the tape on that one.
no, that's not what I said. What I said was
I am 100% sure you
Okay,
have said that.
well, you're 100% wrong then, because that's not what I said. What I said was, it's not just that he can't shoot, it's that he doesn't. That's what I said. There's a difference.
I don't think
Like,
you ever said
There's
it's
plenty
not
of people
just.
that can't shoot but still try it. Draymond Green still takes threes time to time. Ben Simmons doesn't even try. So, anyway.
Then why is he out there? I don't understand. It's basketball. You need to put the ball in the basket.
Because
he's
he's
just-
amazing at defense or something.
He's a good defender. And again,
Is he
But
still a plus
defense
defender?
is an effort thing,
he's
and
the greatest basketball player of all time if there was no basket. We've said this too. Thank
so
you,
he just
PFT.
plays ball.
He plays.
golf.
He don't play no ball. Well, he plays ball, just not basketball apparently. Somehow this turned into a make fun of Ben Simmons session, which is great because it's fun to do. But Embiid, by the way, injured. Who knows? His MVP candidacy's probably over because, well, I can't imagine he's not going to miss more time, right? Like he has to. Embiid was not, but obviously it becomes a non-conversation if Embiid can't get to 65 games. But again, at the same time, I feel like the voters would have had the judgment to say, hey, he missed this many games anyway. But it's just going to look really stupid, though, if you leave somebody off an All-NBA team because they played 63 games and somebody else gets on it when they played 66. Like, you can't tell me the guy that played 66 games actually provided more value because he played 3 more friggin' games. Like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Like that's why the threshold to me is dumb. Let the voters use their own judgment based off of time played. That's how they've always done it. You've never seen a guy who missed 30 games make first-team All-NBA. It just doesn't happen because they understand, hey, he missed this much time. There needs to be a penalty for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because like what they're trying to do is they're trying to penalize load management and make sure that players are out there. But if you run into a situation where, and I mean, it's tough because part of the reason that Embiid is in a position where he could miss that threshold is, I mean, he's been dealing with some, bumps and bruises so far this season, but he's also been doing a lot of the load management.
Yeah.
If he hadn't been doing that earlier in the season, he could afford to miss these games and he'd still be in the running for all NBA teams. So I don't really know what the balance is that you need to strike there, but
You need to be out there.
it's
that's the
like
balance.
I completely understand that, from simply the standpoint of does this player deserve this award, it should be at the discretion of the voters.
Sure.
But there does need to, I feel like there is also a benefit to having some sort of either an incentive system or a disincentive system to make sure that people are not over engaging in load management, that your stars are out there playing the game.
Well, for Embiid himself, like, this doesn't really apply because he's already gotten paid. But I've mentioned this on here, but I will remind you two and anybody else that's listening, all 4 of you, that all NBA teams affect your money. It's not just about awards. Like, you are ineligible for the Supermax if you don't make an All NBA team. And so this situation, like, if I'm having a career year but I get dinged up and a team wants to give me a Supermax, that helps teams retain their homegrown talent because they can give more money to those players instead of somebody else. Mm-hmm. And now you're taking that option away because of, frankly, an arbitrary threshold, right? Like, you just picked a number and said 65, that's it. And that's where the players are going to have some legitimate gripes about this whenever they get to be a part of the conversation with the NBA Players Association. But but as far as how is it actually affecting the load management issue, it's working. Like, players are playing every night for the most part. Like, Embiid himself, no, but Embiid's got a history of injuries. Guys like Kawhi Leonard, who have legitimate degenerative issues, are going to still take their time. But Steph Curry's playing almost every night, and Steph Curry's pushing 36. And he said straight up, not doing load management. I'm playing every night unless I'm actually hurt. And I think that's a good thing for ball.
That's the gig.
Yeah,
right.
It's what you're out there to do. You're out there to play ball, and it's a good thing to see it happening. But there are some moments where you look at the actual rules and you're wondering, there are some unintended consequences here that might need to be cleaned up. But
yeah, I guess that's where you have to ask the question: are those unintended consequences actually going? Like, are those things that you're not willing to live with? Are you okay with with accepting those consequences? Because no matter what you do, there's going to be something that you're not, you don't have the foresight to think of that's going to come up. Yeah. But like, what alternative is there if we're trying to solve this load management thing?
It sounds like it's working. I mean, if the star players are playing all the games and that was the desired outcome, then I
think it is a worthwhile outcome to shoot for as well, because
pun intended.
Sure, but not really.
Not if you're Ben Simmons.
Regardless, for fans, you buy tickets to see these games. If you're a Wizards fan and you get best players, maybe the best player in the NBA, is not out there.
I paid $450 to sit in that arena to watch the Warriors play the Wizards.
For one ticket?
For one ticket, yes.
Oh.
I'm just paying for my own salad, yes.
Did Curry play that day?
Yes, he did.
So fortunately for you,
if he
did not participate in load management that night. But yes, you would have been very pissed off, because
a lot of people
there's no way that anybody in their right mind is paying $400 to see that sorry-ass team if Curry's not on the floor.
Well, back then, John Wall and Brad Beal were there, and the team was
fair, and that's probably why it was $400 instead of like $200 now.
No, it was $400 because it was Golden State. That's why it was. Like, that's why.
But would it be $400 today, or would it be $200?
Well, Kevin Durant doesn't play for Golden State anymore, so like, if that version of the Warriors got teleported to 2024.
I was playing against this version of the
Wizards.
It
would still be $450.
Think so?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the reason I paid the money. I didn't pay to go see the Wizards. I went to see Golden State.
I feel like there's got to be some discount for like having a worse team on the other side.
No.
I mean,
it's market value. Everybody that was there to see Steph. When Steph ran out of the tunnel, he was the last one to come on the court during the pregame warmups. The crowd went nuts for the other team's best player to show up. Mm-hmm. Like, Kevin Durant was out there. Kevin Durant's a legend in his own right. He was out there hitting shots and doing wild stuff.
He's also a local kid.
Yeah, PG County guy. And when Steph came out, everybody went crazy, including your boy. And I was rooting for the Wizards, and I was like, that's Steph Curry right there. He's about to do some crazy stuff in this pregame. I showed up 90 minutes before tip-off because I wanted to see all the stuff that he and KD and Clay were going to do. And watch Draymond brick threes. That was fun. But yeah, like if Steph didn't play that night,
and you can see Draymond brick threes by showing up at tip-off too.
Yeah, I was.
Right, he's not suspended.
He was not.
He's allowed to play.
He was allowed to play back then all the time.
Or hadn't been tossed from the game yet.
No, but again, also if Steph didn't play, the Warriors might have lost because the Wizards actually only lost by 8, and Steph had 42 that night. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Wizards were a better team at the time.
Better, yes. Still not good. But anyway, let's move on to. Let's do college basketball because we got always a friggin' essay here that Corey writes. I'll talk about the Terps real quick. Last week was a surprisingly good week after a demoralizing couple of tight losses. They go to Iowa and win. Surprise, surprise. Road wins are hard to come by for the Terps historically, but they edged out Iowa. Jameer Young with the game-winning layup. Jameer Young is turning into a Terps legend after just like a year and a half.
Oh,
good for him. Like he was spectacular last year. He's the reason why the Terps were as good as they were, and he's the reason why the Terps aren't absolutely awful right now. He's by far and away their best player. Routinely putting up 30-plus point games in Big Ten play, keeping them in games, sometimes outright winning them games like this one. So yeah, that was awesome to see after tough loss to Michigan State at home after a really tough loss on the road to Northwestern where Jameer Young scored 36 points and it just wasn't enough. But this time it was against Iowa, and Iowa's probably going to the NCAA tournament, so that's a nice win for the Terps. And then they hosted Nebraska, who's pretty frisky this year. Like, most people don't think of Nebraska as good at anything anymore.
No.
It's certainly never been good at basketball. But their team is solid, and I actually thought that the Terps might lose that game, but the Terps blew them out. 22-point win, took care of business. First half was a little sloppy early, but ended up going up 17 at the half, and then took care of business and shut them down the second half. So a really nice win for the Terps there. It's felt like for the last few weeks that this Terps team is sort of trying to turn a corner. They're not quite there, but they're getting close. And Saturday's game against Nebraska kind of felt like that was a moment where it kind of came together, at least for 2 hours. So we'll see if they're able to sustain that. They go on the road again on Saturday to face Michigan State in East Lansing, and then they have a home date with Rutgers on Tuesday. Your boy's going to be there. I'm sorry, Corey. I will not be able to call the game with you on Tuesday. Yes, Corey gave me a sarcastic snap thumbs up there for those of you who can't see, which is everybody. Evan's Yellow Jackets apparently are being... There's more. There's more.
No, not really, but I want to quiz Evan.
Oh, you want to quiz Evan?
Yeah, Evan.
Oh, quizzical.
What happened 2 days ago for your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets?
2 days ago?
Yeah.
No idea. Was this the game? Was that 2 days ago? I'm a little out of it. I know we beat North Carolina.
Yes.
This week. Was that 2 days ago?
That was 2 days ago.
I thought that was yesterday.
No.
Oh.
That was 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They were ranked number 3?
Yes. So, yes, that I wanted to see would Evan actually does Evan at least know what's going on when his team gets a massive upset win? Because he hasn't
ESPN
seemed to
alerts.
know what's going on with his team at any other point this season.
I get the ESPN alerts, but, I don't live there, and they're not giving away the free pizza like they did that one time.
So just a quick recap of what's been going on for Georgia Tech over the last several weeks. Y'all were 8-3 at one point.
Okay.
You lost 5 in a row. Then you get this crazy double overtime 93-90 win against Clemson on January 16th. And then you go on a 3-game losing streak. So at that point, you've lost 8 of 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
And of all teams to snap that run against, you do it against number 3 North Carolina on Tuesday, 74-73, with Nathan George executing a really tough left-handed layup with just under 8 seconds to play, a big defensive stop on the other end. Fans stormed the court. Talked a little bit about court storming last week, so we'll leave that alone. I don't think that there were any crazy incidents this time around.
Caitlin Clark wasn't there to push a fan and then flop. She might be there on Saturday when the Terps host the Iowa Hawkeye ladies.
That's true.
Lady Hawkeyes.
I would love for there to be an opportunity for her to flop during a court storming.
Cool.
I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll talk about the
Didn't happen
Lady
last year
Terps in a little
Lady
while.
Terps just blew them out. I was there.
But yeah, so big win there for Georgia Tech.
We have a knack for beating North Carolina. Like it just keeps happening. Our teams are typically terrible, and their teams are typically really good, and we just go up to Chapel Hill and beat them sometimes.
Yeah. Was this in Chapel Hill?
I think this game was in Atlanta.
This was in Atlanta because the fans would storm the
court.
court
Yeah.
if it was in Chapel Hill.
If it was in Chapel Hill, they should have stormed the court.
If they were storming the court
them?
in Chapel Hill, it would be to execute the team. And thankfully, that didn't happen.
Oh, so is the quiz over?
Yes, the quiz is over.
So if a quiz is quizzical, what's a test?
I'm not going to answer that on the air.
You should answer that. Anyway,
what are we doing here?
You decided to have a random quiz while I was explaining what happened. So congratulations, Evan. Your team won a big game.
Yeah, we won a game.
A game. Yes.
Yeah,
we beat Duke and North Carolina in the same season.
That happened this year?
Yeah.
Look at that. And y'all still aren't going to make the tournament, are
No.
you? No. That's like the 05 Terps where they swept Duke. They went down to Durham and beat Duke, and then they beat him in College Park on College game day.
And then they go dancing.
I remember because I was there.
I was there too.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was madness.
Yes, indeed. All right, so we've got Evans Yellow Jackets face play, whoever. North Carolina State and Wake Forest, so some more North Carolina square-offs there. More top 10 upsets. In all now 24 top 10 teams. I don't even know what that means. Okay.
Do you want me to just do this update?
This is a slog, man, but I'll do it.
I can take care
all
of
this
it.
crap.
Yes, 24 top 10 teams have lost in upset fashion over the past 3 weeks. It's 8 a week.
You have 24
crazy.
teams in the top 10. Is like Bill Simmons or Bill Walton just having 6 teams in the top
final 4.
There are 4 number 1 seeds when you go dancing.
That's true, but that's not what we're talking about here. Okay, so on Tuesday, number 6 Kentucky lost at South Carolina. Is Frank Martin still the coach at South Carolina for the men's team?
I believe he is. I can double check
that. He kind
that.
of rules.
He's a whole lot less famous than the women's coach.
Well, yeah,
it's
Dawn Staley's a legend.
But she's
and
great.
That program's incredible, but Frank Martin is also really cool.
Is he?
Yes, he's very cool.
No, Lamont Paris is the head coach now.
Frank Martin's awesome.
It looks like Lamont.
Find out what happened to Frank Martin. Did he die or something?
I'll take a look.
Did he die?
I don't think he died.
Gave himself an aneurysm from screaming at people and turning purple.
That's what he did. All right, so on Wednesday, number 8, Auburn lost at Alabama. Alabama used to be a prominent program, but I guess not currently. Auburn coached by Bruce Pearl, who was a legend for a lot of not so good reasons. Number 10, Illinois lost again after the Terps beat them. Northwestern got them this time in a little in-state rivalry. And on Thursday, Arizona, number 9, lost to Oregon State. Lost to the Beavs, 80-83. And then on Saturday, number 7, Kansas lost at number 23, Iowa State, 75-79. And then Auburn lost again to Mississippi State. The Bulldogs that Evan doesn't hate, I think. Maybe Evan just hates all Bulldogs. I don't know. And then Tuesday, which was 2 days ago, we mentioned this already. Number 3, North Carolina lost to Georgia Tech in Atlanta. Number 5, Tennessee lost at home to South Carolina. So South Carolina pulled a couple of big upsets this week. So we'll see if they're able to make a push up into the top 25 maybe at some point.
So I got an answer for you on Frank Martin.
Sounds like he died.
No,
you sound really sad.
Yeah.
No, I'm a little bit perplexed as to why you think that he's this great coach, but I'll get to that in a second.
I don't think he was a great coach. I think he's awesome.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know enough about him to talk about that. But after he led South Carolina to a Final Four appearance in 2017, they did not make it to the NCAA tournament again.
Yeah.
So he was fired after the 2021-22 season. He's now with UMass. He's their head coach.
Good for him. I like Frank Martin. He's fun.
Yeah.
All right, and then Wednesday, number 10 Kentucky lost at home to Florida, 91-94 in overtime. So that's 2 losses this week for Kentucky, or in the last time since we did a show.
Yep.
So upcoming ranked matchups of interest. At 4 p.m. on Saturday, number 4 Houston is playing at 8 Kansas. Is Houston in the Big 12 for basketball, or are they still like their own weird little conference? It feels like they play a lot of Big 12 teams.
I mean, I think they joined the Big 12 for everything. I mean, it's with the...
So it's back onto the one line with 7 ranked opponents in their last 10 games. Big 12 is tough, but any more losses may take away that possibility. Houston, meanwhile, has won 5 in a row since dropping 2 in a row to unranked Iowa State and TCU in the second week of January. So next relevant matchup at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN. Number 7 Duke is at number 3 North Carolina. North Carolina probably will not be number 3 by Monday, but they currently still are. First of 2 meetings between these 2 teams, as always. North Carolina will be coming in apparently motivated after losing to the Yellow Jackets, but maybe they'll just be really sad. I don't know.
I'm sure that Urshana and I will be watching this game on Saturday.
We're gonna be. Are we gonna be on the train home by then, or?
The train home is like late, like 11 or something.
Okay, all right. What time's the train there?
It leaves at like a little before 8 a.m.
Okay, so
it's going to be a very long day.
That's going to be nuts. Yeah. It's going to be like flying to Knott's and then going to Knott's.
And then flying home that day. Should try that, actually.
You do all that in one day?
No.
I was going to say.
I would jump off a bridge before I tried that. Oh. I need to sleep in a hotel. I could do a train. A plane ride? No. No
Not
way.
For 6 hours?
No. And they don't feed us? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
By the way, you did when they didn't feed us on the way to L.A. last year.
Yeah, because I was hungry.
You had a full-on fit, and I was like, we still got to get the rental car, dude. Anyway, so Corey will be watching that game. Evan and I will be running around Yonkers or whatever in New Jersey. Is it East Rutherford? Is that where it actually is?
Yes.
Okay. Saturday, 8:30 p.m. on ESPN. Number 5 Tennessee is at number 10 Kentucky in Lexington. Both teams are coming off losses against unranked opponents. While Tennessee's was certainly more embarrassing, Kentucky has really been on the struggle bus, dropping 3 games to unranked opponents since January 13th. Kentucky hasn't played a ranked opponent since mid-December when they beat North Carolina in the CBS Sports Classic. Sunday at 1 p.m. on CBS, number 2, Purdue, Evan's favorite team, and Evan's favorite player, Zach Edey, at number 6, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's very, very good this year.
Yeah.
First matchup of the season between these two teams, like Duke and North Carolina. They will see each other this weekend and then again later in the season. They will play each other in their season finales, so that might be senior day for whoever's hosting that game. That'd be Purdue would be hosting,
yep.
So that would be Zach Edey's final game. Thank the Lord for that, because we're tired of him. Wisconsin will face Nebraska before this matchup. Nebraska was the last team to beat Purdue back on January 9th. Ladies ball. Lady Terps. Week to forget. Sounds like a recurring thing for them. They haven't been very good this year. They're only 12-9. Suffered a tough overtime loss against Michigan last Wednesday after leading by 9 with about 3 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. So they blew it. Sunday was just an awful performance. The team had a 62% win probability before the game started, but gave up 112 points.
I'm sorry, what?
Wow, that's a lot. Losing
Shows
by
who
36.
reads the notes before the show.
Well, I didn't
reading
read
all of this.
I'm not going to read all that, but I'm happy for you, though. We're sorry that happened. I don't know. Anyway, blowed out. That's not good. Last night they came back home. Tough matchup with number 10 Indiana, lost by 14. Now they draw number 3 Iowa, Caitlin Clark. At home on Saturday. You can catch that game on Fox at 8 p.m. unless you want to drop $120 or so. Well,
those prices have probably gone up since the last time I looked.
Yeah, not FS1. Big boy Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Network TV.
Yeah.
Big time. Who calls those games for big time Fox basketball? Is that who does that?
No idea.
I have no idea.
Like Kevin Burkhardt.
Assume they actually give the women's game equal treatment, which I'm not willing to put money on.
Well, if Burkhardt's there and somebody gets the ball to Caitlin Clark and she's standing by herself, he better say wide open.
Wide open!
Yes. I'd be really upset. Lady Jackets also failed to get a win since our last show, losing to number 19 Virginia Tech and number 23 Florida State. They host number 14 Notre Dame tonight and then Wake Forest on Sunday, so the road doesn't get a whole lot easier. All right, some lady upsets this week. 16 top 10 teams have lost to unranked or lower ranked teams in the past 3 weeks. That is just brutal to read. Wednesday, number 20 Texas lost at home to Oklahoma, 87-91.
Do you read the notes for the show?
You talking to me or
no, to Corey?
I write the notes for me to be able to read them, not for you guys.
But
if y'all want to do the reading, you need to rewrite the notes
I'm
for
not
you.
gonna do the reading.
I'm not doing all
You know,
these
Eric's
notes.
not doing the reading.
You think
He
I'm
went to
doing-
school here. Remember that? He's not doing the
Hey,
reading.
I did the reading when I knew there was a quiz. Asking me, he called on me. He said, "What's the side that the wind is blowing on the mountain? What is that called?" And I said, "The windy side." I have thoroughly derailed the show now.
This show has been derailed.
Yeah, it done happened already. All right. Anyway,
Can we re-rail it?
No idea what we were talking
get
about.
back on
at all.
track here. Friday,
Oh my God.
last Friday, number 3 Colorado, the Buffs lost at number 25 Oregon State by 6 points, 62-60. That's
Oregon State keeps getting upset wins. They've had quite a few of them this
the
season.
Beavs, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Adley Rutschman. Saturday, number 8 UConn lost at home to number 15 Notre Dame. We've talked about their struggles, by their standards at least, this
They
season.
have a lot of injuries.
Yeah, 67-82 to Notre Dame. Is Muffet McGraw still coaching Notre Dame? How do you not know this? You're the one that put all this stuff in here. Come on, Corey, step your game up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sunday, number 2 UCLA lost at home. That's a big loss to Washington State, to Wazoo, 82-85. And Monday, number 9 LSU lost at Mississippi State, 73-77. And then yesterday, number 2 Kansas State lost to Oklahoma, 63-66.
Muffet McGraw retired in April 2020.
Okay, well,
So it's been
Probably
a
a
while.
good time to retire.
yeah, right. As you know,
Everybody
The
else
world
was
was ending.
the
retiring.
world shut down thanks to Rudy Gobert.
Yes.
Upcoming ranked matchups of interest: Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on ESPN. Number 12 Texas at number 13 Baylor. Big rivalry game. That game will be in Waco, where I have been, because I drove through Waco to get to Austin, where Texas is.
Yeah, Big 12 is
DFW, where TCU is.
Big 12 is super competitive this year on the women's side. So, like, they're both ranked in the top 15, and yet they're both barely hanging on to stay in the top half of the conference.
All right. Friday, 10 p.m. on Pac-12 Network, which apparently is a thing. Number 15 USC is at number 4 Stanford, so the Cardinal trying to get another big win. Only meeting they'll have in the regular season this year. USC is 4-4 in the conference, but has proven they can beat strong opponents, having split their 2 games against UCLA. That was ranked number 2 both times they played. Stanford, though, is on a roll. They've won 11 of 12 since their surprising early December loss to Gonzaga. So,
And you didn't mention Tara Vanderveer being the all-time winningest coach in all of college basketball. Is that in here? She passed Krzyzewski as.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was gonna be my shout out.
Oh, okay. Well, it should be in here
I'll
since we're talking about her team.
Now I'll have to pick another shout out. I assumed that neither of you were gonna bring that up since you guys don't care about this stuff. I'm the only one who's
we
putting
don't
notes
care
in
is
here.
fallacious, but you write all the notes here. So.
Fallacious.
Yes. All right. So on Sunday at noon, big noon Saturday, but except on Sunday and 10 games. So yeah, it's appropriate. Number 10 Indiana at number 8 Ohio State. This is a huge matchup according to Corey's fancy notes here. Indiana is tied with Iowa for first in the conference at 9-1, and Ohio State's just a half game back at 8-1. So right there in the mix. The Ohio State has won 7 straight, including that upset over Iowa last week.
Iowa.
Yes.
Islands of Adventure on the mind, huh?
Yes, of course. Always. We discussed that court storming last week where Caitlin Clark had a moment that we already got into, so we won't do that again. Indiana, meanwhile, has suffered their lone conference loss to Iowa and would like to keep it that way with another matchup with the Hawkeyes coming up later this month. So, fun fact there. Sunday at 2 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, number 2 Kansas State at number 12 Texas. I didn't make a funny there. I could have. Will be the Longhorns' second big matchup of the week after their date with Baylor tonight. Kansas State, meanwhile, went 2 months without losing a game from their 7-point loss to Iowa. Iowa's all over the place here.
Yes.
On November 26th to their 3-point loss to Oklahoma last night. And then Sunday at 4 p.m. on The Deuce, number 7 UCLA at number 4 Stanford. Another big game for Stanford. We've talked about them. Like Texas, Stanford will be coming off a matchup with the top 15 opponent. And like their game against USC, this will be the Cardinals' only shot at UCLA this regular season. UCLA, meanwhile, has not won back-to-back games since the first weekend of the new year, and yet they're ranked number 2. That should probably change it. Oh, they slipped. Okay. They'll try to change that with road games at Cal tomorrow and then Stanford on Sunday. Monday at 7 p.m. on The Deuce, number 16 Louisville at number 5 NC State. Louisville holds 1-game lead over NC State in the ACC, but it's currently the difference between 1st and 5th, so it's pretty tight wolf pack, as you could say.
Mm-hmm. A lot of teams, half a game between the two of them.
All right, so North Carolina State also plays at home against UNC tonight, a team that is half a game ahead of them, so there'll be a level of pressure this week for the wolf pack. You normally wouldn't expect in home games against lower-ranked opponents, but they got to get this done.
Yep.
And that does it for college basketball, not college sports. There's plenty of other stuff going on, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
I saw that CBS picked up Big Ten football.
Yes,
that
was part of the big hullabaloo agreement. Yes,
so
that's the thing. So no more Big Noon Saturday for the Big Ten.
I mean, there'll be Big Noon Saturday, somewhere.
Somebody will be playing.
Yeah,
whatever.
Maybe the ACC will get it.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
Not counting on that. All right, so let's move to Major League Baseball, where let's start with Corey's Yankees, because Corey's Yankees are kind of boring compared to the news that the Orioles got this week. Spring training begins in 23 days against Detroit. That's a
first
misnomer.
game?
That's the first game of spring training. Spring training actually starts when pitchers and catchers report. Corey.
I also put that they report in 2 weeks.
You did.
So I'm specifically talking about spring training games.
Well, whatever. Pitchers and catchers report in 2 weeks, as you said. First pitch of Guardians' home opener will come 57 minutes after the entire city of Cleveland will be enveloped in darkness as the city experiences its first total solar eclipse since 1803 and the last until 2444. I will be alive for that one, I promise you. No, I will not. But I don't think any of us will be, to be fair.
I might be.
Not just like us, but humans in general. We're screwed.
Well, we won't be humans anymore. As soon as I can install my brain into a robotic shell, I've already told everybody I know I'm doing it. I will be one of those people.
Well, good luck with that. All right, so...
I fact-checked this, and it's accurate. I thought it was a typo. I thought you meant 2044, not 2444, but
no. This is something that happens basically 3 times over the course of any 650 roughly year range throughout history.
In the same spot?
In this particular spot, in Cleveland.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, if gates open more than this time before first pitch, so you could be out there at the game watching the players warm up for their first game of the season, and all of a sudden just be pitch black.
Turn the lights on.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
That is cool.
All right, let's talk about the A's, hon. J.P. Angelos selling his share of the team, or not the entire thing, but close to it. Will not be controlling owner of the Orioles any longer. David Rubenstein, who Evan and I are familiar with because of rumors that he was going to buy the team back in December, those started up, and, it turns out those were real and spectacular. He and a group of people have bought the team, including Cal Ripken Jr., Grant Hill, as Evan mentioned, Michael Blomberg, of all freaks, with all of his billions of dollars, and some guy named...
series is real, and it's spectacular.
And you haven't watched any of it.
I've watched half of the first DVD. There's
Yeah,
17 more DVDs.
That's a lot more discs to put in. You just watch it on Netflix now, man. Come on.
Oh.
Late to the party.
Well.
All right. So what does this mean? Well,
nothing yet.
We don't really know what it means, but it means that the guy who sucked at being the owner is not the owner anymore. So, positive.
It can't get any worse.
That's not true.
Dan Snyder has a whole bunch of extra money now.
It's probably not going to get worse, but what we know about David Rubenstein is
he's got a lot of money.
He's got a lot more money than the Angelos family did.
He's a Duke alum.
He's a Duke alum, so avert your ears, I guess, if you're one of those people that just can't get over that.
Same with Grant Hill.
Yeah, Grant Hill. Yeah,
Did Grant Hill graduate, or does he?
I don't know. That's cool. Good for Grant Hill. But anyway, Rubenstein spent $21 million on a copy of the Magna Carta, so he's clearly willing to spend money on nonsense, and baseball is nonsense.
Hold on, how much did he spend for a copy?
$21 million.
What?
Yeah.
For a copy of the Magna Carta, not the original.
They're not going to give him the original. That's like the Constitution in England. You can't give that away.
You should have put up more money, right? But maybe $45 million would have done it.
So now you're taking the stance that he's cheap.
I mean, if he wanted it so bad,
why can't somebody just Xerox it?
I think that's what he bought.
I don't know what he bought, but he spent
$21 million for a Xerox copy of the Magna Carta.
I don't know if it's a Xerox copy, but what I know...
That sounds like somebody who makes poor financial decisions. Sounds like somebody I would not want having controlling interest in my favorite team.
I mean, okay, but he's not the one that
this
decides.
This is the guy who's going to sign Aaron Hicks again, but he's going to pay him 5 times as much as you signed him for last year.
But that's not possible.
Aaron Hicks is on the Angels.
He just signed with the Angels.
Yeah, so
good for him.
The Angels are dumb enough to take him.
So he'll trade for Aaron Hicks, and he'll give them I don't know, Jackson Holliday and Adley Rutschman.
Corey, you are not bringing us down today. I know you're mad because, hey, this looks like the Orioles have this amazing farm system and this great GM, but the big thing that AL East teams have been saying is, well, the Orioles aren't going to pay any of their players, so it's all good. Well, guess what? Now they might. So
now they might. Might being the key word.
I'm not going to promise that this guy's going to come in here and give extensions to our core players, but the chances of him doing so are much higher than Angelos did because, 1, more money, 2,
we saw Angelos not do it.
We saw Angelos never do it.
We have a track record.
And 3, I think there is a benefit to the fact that Rubenstein is a native Baltimorean. He's a lifelong Orioles fan. Angelos wants to live in Nashville. That's where he wants to be. He doesn't have an attachment to this area or to this team.
A city and a state, by the way, that does not have a professional baseball team in it.
They've got
well, the Nashville Sounds, they're triple
minor league, but they don't
That's
have
professional.
Okay,
Yeah, they're getting paid something. They're getting paid a little bit.
Paid peanuts, but
what even
literal
is the
peanuts.
closest major league team to Nashville?
Atlanta.
Is it like the Braves?
Yeah. Braves, yeah.
It's like 4 hours away.
It's kind of a haul.
Yeah.
But hey. So yeah, this is cool. I'm happy about this. I can't help but be optimistic. Orioles fans on Twitter were having just a ball with this. And yeah, I'm hoping for the best. Obviously, there's still a lot of crap that has to be sifted through here on account of the fact that the Angelos family is still involved with the team, seemingly at least until Peter passes on. But he's like 94, and so who knows how much longer he's going to be around. But the most important piece is that Rubenstein is in control of the team. He's the guy running the show. So, and I think the fact that Cal Ripken is involved also can't help but be a positive thing. There's no way that Cal would sit back and just be like, hey, let me just squeeze money out of this franchise, and not care about winning. That's not something he's going to be about. So, yeah, big news for the Orioles. Obviously, a lot to look forward to with the team based off of their success last year. But I'm curious to see how this offseason, the rest of the offseason will play out. Obviously, it's hard to imagine how much of a difference having a new owner can make when spring training starts in a couple weeks. But at the very least, you could maybe have some hope that some of these young guys might get early extensions and keep them around instead of just seeing them walk after 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I'm also optimistic. Hopefully, a lot of the young stud players stick around, and hopefully we get to see, even more prolonged success, right? Because, the Dodgers have the most money, ever, but they also have a tremendous farm system. Yeah. The Orioles have built a tremendous farm system. We'll see what happens with the money. And it's not like the Orioles have a bad team coming into 2024 either, right? No. They had the best record in the American League. And, if it was 1968 or earlier, they'd have just gone to the World Series just right away. So, we will see what happens. It's hard for me to be optimistic in general about anything. It's particularly hard for me to be optimistic about this team because they've been so terrible my entire life.
I mean, even when they're winning, I'm sitting in Oriole Park and Evan's just muttering, "This dumb team."
Yeah. Up 7-0 against the Yankees, and suddenly it's 7-1. I'm like, oh my god, you got to be kidding me.
Evan's not going to be happy.
Kramer walks the leadoff guy and says, "Dumb team. This is why we can't win any games."
Yeah, this is why we don't win any games.
Evan is not going to be happy until either the Orioles have a 162-0 season, or at minimum they have more wins than losses in the team's history.
I mean, they got some work. They're 1,000 games under 500.
That's going to be
like I said, one or the other, and neither one is very likely to happen within any of our lifetimes, except for mine.
Because you're going to live till 24, 45.
Yes,
yeah,
so at least.
He's going to have a robot body. It's going to be awesome out here. Hopefully not. All right, so that's all we have for baseball.
Man.
Unless,
I am the youngest of us.
Yeah, barely.
Barely.
Just reached 32. So,
yes.
All right. Let's get to the stuff that we don't want to talk about.
Do we have to?
Oh, right.
Professional football.
Must we?
The National Football League.
Can we not?
I mean, you guys don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it either because I have my own personal take about this season in general.
Oh, okay. Well, then we can go
let's start with that.
Okay, well, let's start with this. This Super Bowl that has been forced upon us seals this season in place as the worst by far of my life. This season has been crap from jump. It's been horrible.
Really?
The play has been bad. The injuries have derailed the season. The officiating was garbage. We talked about it. The quarterbacking was the worst we've seen it ever. It's been so bad.
And a lot of that goes to your previous point about all the injuries.
Yeah, it's been such a rough season. I get it, as someone that roots for the Lions, you had a fun season. Evan probably at times maybe had a fun season.
When he wasn't too busy being pessimistic 24/7.
Pessimism paid off in the end because, they blew it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just been an awful season. I'm not looking forward to the Super Bowl at all. I'll look forward to my prop bets that I will likely lose a bunch of money to Corey again, which is fine because at least it's fun. I don't mind giving Corey a little bread for not being able to figure out who's going to score the first touchdown or
how long the song is gonna be. Although you
I
tend to get that one. You usually get that one.
I do pretty good with that. Last year was a photo finish. That was nuts. But yeah,
had to go to the tape with Hugh.
Yeah, this has just been a brutal season. And it's, again, I'm not blaming anybody or anything. It's just how it worked out with just everything that happened. And
I don't know. I still found enjoyment out of the season. I agree that objectively the play was worse than what we are used to, and by a pretty significant stretch. It's hard for me to say anything as far as the officiating being horrible, because it was, but it's been horrible for several years now. Like that's not new.
Aren't the officials part-time still? Is that a thing?
I thought that they had gone full-time like during the last collective bargaining agreement or something, but like I get all of that, and yes, the injuries were absolutely brutal this season, particularly to the quarterback position.
Rodgers,
but
just right away.
Well, yeah, like you lose Aaron Rodgers, you lose Kirk Cousins, you lose Joe Burrow, like so many really good quarterbacks just gone. The quarterbacks who still were around, other than a few of them, really kind of had down years. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was not the normal Patrick Mahomes this year. You had a lot of running back injuries, between Aaron Jones being hurt for most of the season, Nick Chubb losing his entire season, whatever
J.K.
the hell
Dobbins
was going on with Austin
immediately.
Eckler. It just I hear all that, but I don't know. For me, I just love football so much. So I'm not gonna sit here and say like the entire season is terrible. I'm not. Of the 4 possible matchups that we could have had for Super Bowl 58 going into this past weekend, we're definitely getting the matchup that I was least interested in seeing. But I'm still looking forward to the game, and I'm looking forward to going to a Super Bowl party to watch it.
I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl being over. I just want to move on.
I mean, I'm also kind of ready for baseball at this point. I've spent some time over the past couple weeks getting our fantasy baseball stuff ready to go for the year.
Sending out more novels that I didn't read. Just send out this long just wall of text. I'm like, oh, yes, my goodness.
Welcome. You're welcome for caring and wanting for you guys to have fun.
I mean,
I had fun. I won the league last year.
Anybody who calls himself a good engineer doesn't read the instructions, so I'll figure it out.
I don't read the script. The script reads me.
I don't want to hire an engineer who does not read the instructions.
Well, then he's not a very good engineer. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, right? He's
not
okay.
Not wreck.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do whatever it says to do. Like, no, you.
That's true. Georgia Tech people can't read.
Figure it out.
Oh, so I have to figure it out.
Corey's roasting, and Corey graduated from UMUC, so
yeah,
being a hater over here.
It's UMGC now.
It is.
Forgive me for
fancier or something. I don't know.
I don't know if it's fancier. I think it's just more clear what the mission of the school is. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, talking about the individual teams, I imagine Corey put this in here and not Evan, but
yeah, that was
it's capital letters, and it's a 4-letter word that I can't say here, but it starts with F and ends in uck, so...
Like fire truck.
Yes.
Yeah, but not 9 letters.
Yeah, I said 4 letters. Ravens just had a cataclysm on Sunday. Like, that was...
Expected
for Evan, because Evan's a pessimist.
Not expected for us. We both were pretty confident.
Why? Why were you so confident?
I find it funny that you say you lacked confidence in your team, and yet you want to retain your head coach, who absolutely ruined your season.
It wasn't Harbs' fault that Zay Flowers fumbled the ball at the goal line.
It was okay. Whose fault is it that you ran the ball with running backs 6 times all game?
Oh, well, that's a yikes. Yeah, you need to run the ball.
Run the dang
carry or something like that. How are you not running the ball more? Oh, because it just wasn't that kind of game.
Yeah, that's what Harbaugh said. He said that a lot, though. That's what Harbaugh always said. It just worked out that way. I'm like, well, you need to make it not work out that way, dude.
Who chooses the way it works out? You.
Well, I mean, Todd Monken deserves his share of blame, too.
Sure, but who hired Todd Monken?
And why isn't Harbaugh on the headset saying, hey, it's the second quarter, why haven't we run the ball more than 3 times?
Mm-hmm. Yes, run the dang ball.
I think they only had 3 designed runs, because 3 of those runs were scrambles by Lamar.
Yeah, I'm just talking about handoffs to the running backs. I'm like, the Chiefs were the 27th ranked rush defense in the league.
They were the worst ranked rush defense that made the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah. Then we watched the Bills last week with James Cook, who was the worst cook. And Dalvin's not good either.
Mm-hmm.
He ran all over him. Like, come on.
No,
inexplicable.
That's
nuts. It's just you can't defend that. That's just indefensible game plan. It felt like they panicked. Like they let the Chiefs' mystique get to them because Mahomes went down the field on the first drive and scored, and it's like, oh no, we're not going to be able to stop him. And then, oh, guess what? You stopped them for the rest of the game, basically.
Yeah,
like they scored
Chiefs
one
didn't
more
score.
time.
The Ravens' defense kept them in that game
Yes.
the whole way, and the offense just refused to do anything.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Well, they tried to do something. They just fumbled.
Even on that one drive, it was saved by Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson on the 4th and 3 run, where he was. I mean, that was really good patience to let a hole develop, because if he had just run straight into that, it was a wall. They would have failed that 4th down.
I got really scared when he hesitated. I was like, oh no, they're going to block that up, and then it ended up opening up for him. I was about to freak out. I was like, you can't get stuffed here, or else you're going to lose. And they lost anyway. But
no. I will say, though, the tying touchdown to make it 7-7, that was one of the greatest plays of football I've ever seen in my life.
I thought when they scored that touchdown, I was like, okay, they're going to win.
Like, what?
They're going to win.
Right?
They're gonna
Lamar's
win the game
about to get sacked again, just dead to rights, and then he just, he does what Carson Wentz is always trying to do when he gets sacked, is like duck and then have the defender on his back, but, it doesn't work for Carson Wentz. So Lamar just spins out of that and just heaves the ball, and Zay Flowers dives in the end zone catching it for the tying touchdown. I'm like, I'm supposed to act like I've seen that before?
Yeah. Zay Flowers giveth, Zay Flowers taketh away.
Yeah, the fumble was unfortunate. The taunting penalty was ill-timed, obviously.
Yeah.
There were definitely elements of the game where the Ravens felt like they got in their own heads. They basically gave away the 3 points at the end of the first half with the stupid penalties that they committed.
Yes.
But again, like I can't help but look at the fact that everybody on Twitter, from the smart people like Solak and Kimes to the people we don't associate with being necessarily brilliant like Big Cat, we're all just like, why aren't the Ravens running the ball? Like it just
everybody noticed it.
Yeah, like I noticed. I was like, why aren't you guys running the football here? Like, what's going on? You were never down by more than 10 points.
No.
It was panic freak out mode because, oh no, we can't stop Mahomes. Well, guess what? You stopped Mahomes. You gave up no points in the second half. You got 5 punts in the second half. You were only down by 10. You have to win that game.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane that you couldn't get that done. And I'm just like, I'm looking at this, I'm shaking my head. I'm like, what's going to be different next time? Like, how can I trust that this coaching staff is going to have an appropriate game plan?
Exactly. Like, that's why it's not going to be different next time, because it's the same coaching staff that's been doing the same thing for several years. They choke in these big moments.
But was the Colts game a big moment back in September? Like, what was that? Right? That was
blew that one too.
That was a big situational football foul up.
Yes.
To say the very least.
Sure, but that one doesn't really matter anymore. You still got the 1 seed.
Okay, could have had the 1 seed a week earlier.
That's true. Actually, I don't think that's true, but
that part doesn't really matter though. What matters is what you're doing in the most important games of the season. Those are the ones where
the most important game is the game that you are playing.
That's true.
So, you weren't going to the AFC Championship back in September, right? You got to beat Indy. And they had the ball with 2 minutes left, and they figured out how to, have Indy, get the tying score at the end of regulation. And I'm like, you had complete control, right? Control of the clock, control of the football, and they're like, we don't really want that. We don't need that, right? Like it's just the little details that seem to get missed. Harbs almost definitely got out-coached by his former boss Andy Reid, but Andy Reid out-coaches pretty much.
Out-coached by Andy Reid, but Andy Reid out-coaches just about everybody.
You know who he didn't out-coach? Mike McDonald.
Yeah.
Like Mike McDonald solved Andy Reid.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
And that's why Mike McDonald is no longer with the Ravens.
Yeah, good for him, though.
It's a big part of why he's not.
He should be.
He should be their head coach.
Yeah.
John Harbaugh should be gone. Mike McDonald should be all head coach. Instead, he just took this job with Seattle.
I don't think that's a smart move in the sense that, you don't make knee-jerk reactive decisions like that. You can't be like, we lost a game, fire everybody.
We have been saying for the better part of this season, and honestly for a couple seasons now, that Harbaugh's time might need to be up. So this is not a knee-jerk reaction to one instance. This is the last straw of many straws that we have seen get picked or whatever. I don't even know where I'm going with that, but
Well, you tried.
There have been many straws, and this is the last one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I'm not in favor of just firing people. Oh, we lost the game. He's got to go. Right?
You want to fire Brandon Hyatt every week, and we win all the time. So,
That's because he's not putting the right people on the field. Right? Baseball managers, you have one job. It's,
Football coach, pretty clear job is play to your strengths, and they didn't do it. So,
but like the coach has to coordinate and call all the plays.
They
and all
didn't
that kind of
play
stuff.
to their strengths or to their opponent's weakness, even though it would have been the exact same game plan if they had done it.
And I also have to wonder about this, though, and this is maybe this doesn't involve.
Ask the Chargers how they're doing with Marty Schottenheimer right now. 14-2, they lose in the playoffs. He gone.
Well, yeah, because he blew it.
Oh, okay.
But that was also another situation where he had blown multiple trips to the playoffs with the Chargers. That was also a last straw situation.
Well, and it doesn't. They also hired Norv Turner, so it's not like they followed up by hiring somebody good. They followed
Rex Ryan instead.
You were underdogs in that game, and you almost won it.
At that point, there had not been multiple straws.
Yeah. What are we talking about? That's not the same thing at all. You were underdogs. You were in that game more than you should. You overachieved that year.
That team had no business going to the playoffs.
Yeah, you were in the AFC Championship game. Yes. You went to New England and blowed out Tom Brady.
That was the next year.
Oh, all right. All right, so that year, who'd y'all beat?
We were the 6th seed. We went to 3-seeded
Miami, right? You beat the Chad Pennington, and then you beat the 1-seeded Titans.
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. Come on, man. That's not the same thing. You can't compare those.
Okay.
That's crazy. All right, but we've said our piece.
I just think it's crazy to fire people willy-nilly, right?
It's not willy-nilly. Y'all haven't won enough the last decade.
Oh.
That's how I feel.
Y'all have given him too much leash.
Okay.
Yeah, you ain't winning enough. I'm sorry, but you ain't doing it. You gotta do better.
My concern would be to bring in, say, get rid of Harbaugh because he's not winning enough.
Yeah.
You bring in some jabroni to be the coach, just some guy.
But it's not some jabroni. It's McDonald.
It could be anybody, right? What if he sucks? We don't know that he's going to be good. We don't know.
Sure, but at this point...
we know that your current coach isn't cutting it. You guys are in a Super Bowl window right now. Not just, we made the playoffs and we were the 1 seed and we got our pants pulled down by Patrick Mahomes. That's good enough, right? No, that's not good enough. Come on. Have some standards.
No, this isn't college football where it's your birthright to win every game.
You're right. It's not your birthright. This is your window of opportunity to win because you've got a superstar quarterback and you've got a great team.
Yeah.
And you didn't win. You just lost to the most vulnerable Chiefs team we've seen in the last 6 years. That's what happened.
Yeah, so I'm not firing a bunch of people. Just we lost the game.
You're firing an incompetent coach. That's what you're doing.
Oh.
That's what you should do. Sorry that he's not good.
Evan's over here having analysis paralysis.
No, I
getting cute here. Just the coach ain't getting it done. You gotta get rid of the coach. You ain't getting it done. All right. Let's talk about Corey. Let's do your Lions.
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
So the Lions had a rough game. They were
a great first half.
Kicking ass in the first half. Had them in the first half. Not gonna lie. But
everything that could go wrong in the second half
I couldn't believe
went wrong. You give up the opening drive field goal in the second half. No problem. You're still up by 14 points at that point. And you kind of knew that the 49ers were going to make some adjustments at halftime on offense. They were going to come out and probably play better. I didn't expect for us to not score for more than 15 minutes of game time in the second half. You drive down after the field goal. It's 24-10. You get into field goal range, but kind of borderline field goal range. You have a 4th and 2. It's an obvious go-for-it situation there, in my opinion. You get a good-ish throw to Josh Reynolds. It was a little bit wide. Would have been a tough catch, but very makeable catch, especially for an NFL wide receiver. Somebody who's been very short-handed all season. Josh Reynolds has been excellent when he's been targeted and just dropped the ball on 4th down. So they go, drive down, get another touchdown. It's now 24-17. We get the ball. And I think that on that possession, we punted. We had some struggles. We had to punt it away. They score again. They score again because you have the deep shot to Brandon Ayuk that bounces off of the defender's face mask and right to Ayuk. Name a better pair than NFC West wide receivers in making circus catches that should be batted down by the defense. The 49ers and the Seahawks do this all the time. Drives me nuts. So they end up getting the touchdown with Christian McCaffrey. Second play, I think, of the next drive, Jahmyr Gibbs runs the wrong way on a handoff. Goff barely is able to get back to give the ball to him, but Gibbs never really secures the handoff, fumbles the ball. So right away, the 49ers get the ball again with another chance, and they go up. Just a really frustrating second half for the Lions. A lot of people have been expressing frustration with Dan Campbell over the decision to go for it on 4th and 3 in the fourth quarter when we were on the 30-yard line. I'm okay with the decision. In fact, I thought it was a pretty good decision at the time to go for it on 4th down.
Because of the kicker,
after the fact, I thought it was a better decision because at the moment I wasn't even really thinking about the kicker. But afterwards, when I was able to see like some of the stats that we were looking at, you're dealing with a team that on 4th and 3 or less this season was converting at a rate like twice like the league average.
Like 80%, man.
It was insane the rate that they were converting those this season. Despite like having such a high volume that it's kind of hard to keep that. Like when you have that big of a sample size and they're doing it at that high of a level, you feel pretty confident in that. When you then add the fact that Michael Badgley had the worst field goal percentage of any kicker in the NFL this year on kicks of 45 plus, and that's a 47-yard field goal there, I can't really fault the decision. I think that's the smart decision. The analytics probably told Dan Campbell to go for it there. Unfortunately, just didn't really get the best play. But you have Josh Reynolds drops 2 big passes, including a 3rd and 10 pass that was right on the money. Yep. Michael Irvin didn't try to catch it with his body. Whatever Michael Irvin was talking about when he said that's the way you catch a ball.
Irvin's in the Hall of Fame.
He is.
Playoff legend.
Cool.
That doesn't make him right in this situation.
Right. You have Brandon Jennings making a ridiculous circus catch on a 3rd and 4 pass by Brock Purdy that
Jawan Jennings.
Thank you. Yes, not Brandon Jennings. Jawan Jennings. Like that was an insane conversion. You have Brock Purdy on 2nd and medium and 3rd and whatever, just like running away from the defense and scrambling for first downs with his feet. Something that like he's not like a slow guy, but that's not a part of his game usually. And he just went nuts in the second half. He had like 51. I think actually had like 60 rushing yards in the second half when all was said and done.
He's making it happen, man.
Because I think he had like one more after they put the graphic up that he had 51 rushing yards, and he had another one after that. So just it was a nightmare of a second half for the Lions. We get the opportunity at the end of the game to go down and try and score, and then kick an onside, and just it's hard to chalk it up to inexperience because this wasn't Ben Johnson's first year as the offensive coordinator, and I'm pretty sure that he was involved in play calling last year as well. But when you're inexperienced in a playoff situation, I'm not excusing his decision to run the ball on 3rd and goal. I think that was a bad decision.
Can't do it.
I understand the thought process of wanting to catch the defense off balance and them not expecting you to run there, but it's too high risk. It's just too high risk. If you don't get in the end zone, you have to burn a timeout, and that's what they did. And then you run into the situation where, technically the 49ers couldn't just kneel it 3 times, but they just had to like run a few plays to take a few extra seconds off and then do a final kneel down. Like that.
Wait, they wasted a timeout in this situation?
They had to waste the timeout on 3rd down because they ran the ball and were tackled short of the goal line.
What?
They ended up scoring on a 4th down,
that was
backdoor
dumb.
cover. So we'll take that, I guess, for the pick. But my hope is that experience will help Ben Johnson become a better play caller, especially now that we know that he is coming back to the Lions this year. He pulled himself out of the conversation for the Commanders head coaching job, much to Commodus fans' chagrin. A lot of people on Twitter were very upset, calling him classless for
classless.
Because apparently like he was supposed to be on or actually like the Commanders were like in flight to go and talk to him and Aaron Glenn, and he like announced it while they were in flight that he was no longer going to be in.
So then they can still go talk to Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, but fans were like, but what if they hadn't already been also going to talk to Aaron Glenn? They'd be making the trip for nothing. Well, guess what?
Boo-hoo.
These guys have plenty of money. I think that they can burn a few hours. Who cares?
They'll be all right.
In the private plane, they can make.
Can you really blame Ben Johnson for not wanting to coach your team?
Like this isn't a Josh McDaniels has cleaned out his locker in New England.
He had accepted the job in Indianapolis.
And then Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick show up at his door and say, "Hey, buddy, maybe don't do that."
He's like, okay.
Okay, and how's his career worked out since? So,
He got another gig.
And he got fired.
He got paid.
He did. An
get
obscene
paid.
amount of money, and he got all of it. What a charlatan.
Goodness.
Oh, my goodness. Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniels, just a couple legends at the bank for being
Joe
absolute
Judge.
jokes.
One thing I want to say before we kind of put a bow on the Lions for the year, I really want to just take a moment to appreciate Jared Goff and everything that he has been for the Lions over the last 3 years. You bring him in, and just he's kind of a boring quarterback sometimes when you're looking at the stats, and even when you're watching him, especially because of the style of play the Lions have. When they get that early lead, which they got in a lot of games this year, they really turn the ball over to their running game. And so he doesn't have a ton of 300-yard passing games. He doesn't have a lot of these, 3, much less 4 touchdown passing games. But he gets the job done. He did something this year that Tom Brady never did in the playoffs. He had a 3+ game postseason without a turnover. Tom Brady, one time in his entire career, had 3 trip, and now 3 this year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a guy who sometimes will get a little turnover happy. We had that one stretch this year where he had back-to-back games where he had 3 interceptions in one and 3 fumbles lost in another. He's going to have
one of those, the Thanksgiving game.
Yeah. He's going to have those games from time to time, but when it matters most, he steps up to the plate and he protects the ball, and that's what he did this postseason. He 100% deserves an extension. It sounds like the Lions intend to go down that path this offseason, and they should.
This year.
And they should.
Okay. Yeah, because, Jared Goff, he was like the throw-in sort of salary dump to make the money work type of thing in the Stafford trade, right? Like the Rams had to give the Lions picks to take Goff off of their hands.
And when you are the guy in that situation who's not just being traded 1-for-1, but the other team is basically saying, yeah, like we'll take him, but we need all these other players. That doesn't feel good, right? Now, I don't know that the Lions were necessarily thinking that way. I think that they just saw the opportunity. They saw how much Sean McVay, for whatever reason, wanted to get rid of the guy who took him to a Super Bowl to get Matt Stafford. And they're like, let's take advantage of the situation. Let's see if we can get some more than just Jared Goff. Because that's what you do is
just take the rest of the Rams picks.
It's part of the business of football. But this coaching staff has done such a fantastic job of rebuilding Jared Goff's confidence.
I agree.
He's not the same quarterback that he was when we saw him go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in one of the highest scoring games in NFL history. This is not the same Jared Goff, but in some ways I think that this is a more confident Jared Goff. This is a more comfortable Jared Goff, a guy who is very comfortable in his own skin, who understands his limitations and his strengths. And when you have a quarterback who understands that and plays to the strengths and is able to cover up some of those limitations, especially when the games matter most, that's a guy that you want on your team.
The fact that when I watch Jared Goff at this point and it's 3rd and 15 or something like that,
there's no panic.
And when I see him rip a throw, I'm like, as soon as he cuts it loose, I'm like, well, that's a first down. It used to be when I watched Jared Goff, if he made that throw, I'd be like, this is gonna be a pick. This is gonna be some errant throw, or that he put it where he needs to put it. Obviously, it helps to have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who seems to get open at will.
Yeah, but he uses all of his guys. You watch them this season, and Sam Laporta through the year gets more and more involved in the offense. You get guys like Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond, who coming into this year, I'm like, part of the reason that I wanted to draft Amon-Ra St. Brown early in our fantasy drafts is because I'm like, who else is he going to throw to? Like, maybe Sam Laporta turns into something this year, but he's a rookie tight end, so I'm not counting on him being there this year. Turns out that he was. But guess who else really stepped up? Khalif Raymond, unfortunately was hurt for the last 2 playoff games, so he didn't get to factor in. But also Josh Reynolds, who, again, had a couple of really bad drops. Laporta also had kind of a bad drop there in the second half. But these were guys who were there for us throughout the year and who Goff was able to use very effectively. This team is going to take this experience, and particularly with most of, a lot of the team coming back, most of the coaching staff, it would seem, coming back. At this point, Aaron Glenn hasn't been hired by these teams, and I think all the head coaching vacancies have been filled now. So the coaching staff is coming back intact, most likely. I like our chances for another deep playoff run next year.
I do too.
And hopefully they can finish the job.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great season for the Lions. Obviously, the way it ended was brutal, but again, back to Jared Goff though. Like, even when it seemed like the Rams lost faith in him, he still wasn't bad, right?
No.
Like this idea that he was a bum and they had to get somebody else in there. I feel like they could have won the Super Bowl with him too. They just didn't. And obviously Stafford is an upgrade, or was an upgrade at the time, I think. But at this point, if you ask me who would I rather have between Stafford and Goff, it's tough for me to say. Like, Stafford had a great year this year.
Yeah, I mean,
but
for a guy who played as poorly as he did last year, and got off to a little bit of a slow start this year.
Didn't have that neck injury or something.
Yeah.
But
I thought he was cooked at that point.
Once he got healthy, I mean, Stafford had another great year. So I don't think that either team can be upset with who they have right now.
Well, because the Lions weren't going to win anything with Stafford as it was. Right?
Yeah, obviously if you're talking long term, you're probably saying Goff just because Stafford has been in the league for quite a bit longer than Jared Goff.
Sure, but the Rams got what they wanted. They won the Super Bowl.
Yes, exactly.
They probably don't win the Super Bowl with Goff, not because Goff isn't necessarily good enough, but because just all of the organizational pressure on him. And I don't think McVay did this, but everybody gave McVay all the credit in the world for Goff becoming a Pro Bowl level quarterback in LA. And so when he started to slip a little bit, it became all about how bad Jared Goff is as a quarterback, and that eats away at your confidence. Whereas in Detroit, you have a fresh start, you're in a place where expectations are limited, and you've got the best rah-rah coach in the league backing you. So, that definitely helped rebuild. It had to, like you said, rebuild his confidence and turned him into what he's been, which is, a guy that when he's not under pressure, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Obviously, still has issues with pressure, but if that's his flaw and you've got that offensive line and got that run game, you can absolutely win a lot of games and go deep in the playoffs with him as your quarterback.
Yeah.
In a I don't know, relatively winnable NFC as well. I guess Philly's gonna, keep it together next year.
I don't know.
And,
we'll see.
Keep it together.
Maybe. I mean, AJ Brown came out today and said there's no, lost trust in Nick Sirianni, which is great for them to be saying.
He just has to say that.
And it's important, and it is important that it's coming from AJ Brown, because AJ Brown's a guy who was kind of losing confidence in the team during the latter part of the season. But I don't know what to expect from the Eagles. And, as we go through the offseason, we'll get a chance to talk about some of this stuff, especially as we draw closer to the 2024 season. But, for the Lions, the biggest needs this year are going to be on the defense. The defense has to be addressed. Obviously,
yes.
you've got some really good pieces there. Aiden Hutchinson is a beast. Brian Branch, I think, is a really good young player. If Kirby Joseph can ever stop being a knucklehead in the game, he's got a lot of talent. CJ GJ, if he can stop talking too much and giving other teams bulletin board material and waving bye-bye to the home fans at halftime of a game that you're going to eventually lose, that would be nice.
No.
But CJ GJ is a really good player. And we've got some, between Burns and Rodriguez, we got a couple of decent linebackers, but right now we've got to get a good defensive tackle. That was a position that we needed this past offseason. We were able to cover up that weakness with a great offense, but we need to address that this offseason. We need to work a little bit more on our secondary as well, because we gave up a lot of big passing games down the stretch.
Well, we will obviously have more complete thoughts about the two teams playing in the Super Bowl next week as the game approaches, and we figure out what the line actually is going to be when we pull it. It opened at 49ers are favored by 2.5. Overnight, it shifted to 49ers 1.5. I don't know where it stands right now, and I'm not going to bother trying with
I can look it
this
up.
lack of internet in here. But yeah, I mean, on paper, in terms of the matchup, it looks like a good game, right? But,
It is back to 2.5.
okay, so That's interesting. Okay. It's obviously two very good teams, it's one team that seems to have the ability to cause everybody to throw up on themselves when they play them in the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And that includes the 49ers who, 4 years ago, threw up on themselves against this own Chiefs team.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago.
They were up 10 points with the ball with 7 minutes to go, and they blew it. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kyle Shanahan manages to lose another Super Bowl. So,
jeez. Yeah. While we were talking, I mean, I thought of somebody who I'm ready to run out of town instead of John Harbaugh. Ronnie Stanley, really, the injury from 2020 was just so catastrophic.
Yes.
Fortunately he signed his huge extension that week. But he got hurt against the Steelers in 2020, and it just hasn't been the same. It's been surgery after surgery, and it wasn't even the ankle this year. Apparently, he had a knee injury, but he's just not athletic anymore. He can't move. This was the issue with Alejandro Villanueva.
Big Al, your boy.
Oh my God!
Serving him up on Monday Night Football for all of us to see.
Yeah, it's. Much like...
I'm of myself, and I'm a mess.
You need some time.
Okay, I got to know who we gave up for him, though. That's obviously...
I'm clicking the thing right now.
New owner syndrome, baby. It's
Jackson
here.
Holiday, Adley Rutschman.
No, that's not a thing. All right, Evan.
And John Means.
I can't get anything.
Right,
nothing's happening.
Help us with the internet.
Why doesn't the internet work in here?
We ain't got it. Oh my God!
Isn't this one of your jobs at this school to run the internet too?
That's actually one of the few things I'm not.
So RDT says, "Whoa!"
All right, so
shortstop Joey Ortiz and left-hander DL Hall.
Dayton Lane Hall. That makes me sad, but
I like Dayton Lane.
Yeah, so did I. But that's all we gave up.
That's all passing sand.
That's it.
Yeah.
We just gave up Joey Ortiz and DL Hall, and we got Corbin friggin' Burns. That is a steal. You've got to be kidding me. You didn't have to give up Colton Cowser?
I guess not.
Wow.
I liked Joey Ortiz too.
I did too, but he was superfluous, man. We got 10 million infielders already.
Yeah. And Ramon Urias needs time on the field, apparently.
Yeah, boy.
Should have sent him up the road.
Oh, my God. I might have to... Ooh. Wow.
Gonna clean up on aisle 12.
Yeah, this is... I'm a hot little potato right now. This is unbelievable. Oh my God, this reminds me of when Jimmy Butler got traded to the Sixers, just right at the end of the show, and I just freaked out. But this is my team. Wow.
Oh, so I don't see that they have officially named who the Orioles are sending. Just that DL Hall has been discussed.
Well, Evans got Passan saying
with the blue check,
yes,
right?
Saying,
and Bob Nightingale is on there too.
Saying DL Hall, and the week was Lamar Jackson, 31 DYAR, which doesn't look so bad, but again, only 4 quarterbacks going, and going up against good defense in the Chiefs anyway. Best running back by just by total, because shots got lazy.
Shots fired.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, 63 DYAR. Worst of the week, Jahmyr Gibbs. That fumble obviously killed him. Negative 23. And then pass catchers, wide receivers, or tight ends. Travis Kelce, 50 DYAR. He was tremendous. I think he caught all 11 of his targets, had over 100 yards and a tutter. And then Jameson Williams was the second highest, just a yard behind Kelce. The worst of the week was Noah Gray at negative 23. Who's Noah Gray?
He's the other tight end for the Chiefs. He's the guy who was their starter in week 1 against the Lions when Kelce was out.
Okay, well, there you go. So that's your best.
Steven went and spent a bunch of fab to get him the next week.
How'd that work out for him?
Actually, I think he spent that fab on him that week and started him, and he didn't do a whole lot.
Steven did a lot of things that he probably shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
To my benefit.
To everybody's benefit, really.
Okay, so do we have anything else, Evan? Any more?
He had to retire early because of, I think, some sort of spinal injury or something.
Oh, yikes.
Should also mention that the Commodes hired Dan Quinn as their next head coach, which is hilarious.
A known failure getting another job for a failure of a franchise.
Guy who went 43 and 42 with the Falcons, or 42 and 43.
Well,
like that.
And he also kind of blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
That happened too.
But also something that came across my desk today. So, Chris Shula, Don Shula's grandson, who has been coaching with the Rams for the past 7 years under Sean McVay. This year served as the linebackers coach / pass rush coordinator. The Dolphins were planning to bring him in for an interview for their defensive coordinator job. Well, the Rams beat them to the punch and promoted him to defensive coordinator today as a replacement for Raheem Morris, who just went to the Falcons as their head coach.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he went to the Falcons as their next head coach.
Wait, what did you say?
Brandon Saunders just tweeted at me saying we got Corbin Burns. So.
Well, he's not listening to the show then.
Well,
nobody else is either.
Yeah,
But
I can't blame him for that.
People don't listen to the live show; they listen afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. Are we done with the stuff, Corey?
I don't even know.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just reading about Corbin Burns.
Evan's sitting here roster.
I had Corbin Burns on my fantasy team a couple years ago. It was quite fun.
I'm sure it was.
It's one of my 2 championships I've won already.
Congratulations. Okay.
Shout out Mark Andrews. Apparently saved somebody's life.
That was my other shout out. Thank you very much,
Evan's
Evan.
out here just vulturing all the shout outs.
Yeah.
How about we let Eric be the host?
Well, I'm just scrolling through Twitter and
I'm going to bring us home now, if that's okay.
You want to listen to the show?
All right. Thank you. Again, you have internet now, apparently. You have to gripe every week about it.
That's probably why our
comes and
podcast
goes.
that's probably why our podcast disconnected, is because y'all are trying to get on the internet in here.
Yeah, only one person on the internet at a time. Like it's 2001 with AOL.
Dial up, noises and stuff. Okay, well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you guys for tuning in. You can reach out to us at thesportsballers@gmail.com if you have any feedback or mailbag questions for us to answer on the show. We appreciate that. You can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or Amazon. And if we are not on your favorite podcatcher, let us know, and we will do our best to accommodate you. You can follow this show on Twitter at SportsBallers18. You can follow us individually. Corey is at Corey Puffett. I am at Quagmire67. And Evan is at Evan_Ash13. Again, any shout-outs that Evan hasn't ruined for you, Corey?
No. Shout out Tara Vanderveer and Mark Andrews for the reasons that Evan already so kindly mentioned.
There you go, Evan.
I guess shout out Victor Oladipo for getting traded to the Rocket or to the Grizzlies from the Rockets for Steven Adams and some picks.
Cool.
He's a DeMatha guy.
I'm aware. I sat across the hall from his homeroom where he's always singing songs in Darnay's class. Yeah. I remember that.
He graduated with you?
Yeah, he graduated with me. Precursor to being on Masked Singer.
Yes, he was on the Masked Singer. Yes, that's true.
Oh.
Evan, any other shout-outs?
I just want to mention that Milwaukee also got the 34th pick in the 2024 MLB draft.
I didn't know that you were allowed to trade draft picks.
That's one of the comments here, too.
I thought that was not a thing, but...
Why wouldn't you be allowed to trade draft picks?
I don't know. Baseball's weird.
I've never seen draft picks be traded in baseball. It's not...
Like
I would imagine that most teams probably don't value the draft picks super highly, considering... It's a sport where you have a lot of rounds, like a crap ton of rounds.
Yeah.
Those fewer rounds.
And it's sort of a crapshoot as far as like which players are actually going to develop and not. Like
totally.
Lots of talented players are available deep into the draft, so I imagine that draft picks just aren't valued that way in baseball. So
and baseball was weird. So like the 2003 Tigers lost 119 games.
Yeah,
they didn't get the number 1 pick in 2004
because they used to alternate. The worst team in the NL would get the number 1 pick in the AL. So and the AL had the.
They just alternated, or did they also base that off of the All-Star game?
It was based
alternated. Yeah,
All-Star game. Awesome if that was based on the All-Star game. The winning side gets home field advantage in the World Series. The losing side gets the number 1 overall pick.
That's a good idea, actually.
That'd be kind of neat.
Because it's better than what they used to do, just alternate back and forth. So the Padres picked Matt Bush or something, right?
Yeah.
With number 1 overall in 2004, and the Tigers picked second. They picked Justin Verlander. So
I think they won.
Yeah, they went to World Series 2 years later.
And Justin Verlander.
What if it was winner take all? The winner
Justin
gets home
Verlander's
field
going to
advantage
the Hall
and
of
the number
Fame,
1
and
pick.
Matt Bush is.
Well, he went to prison, so there's that.
What it should be is winner gets home field advantage in the World Series and the first 15 picks in each round of the draft. And the losing league gets the other 15 picks in reverse order of standings.
The Yankees still wouldn't be able to put together a good farm system.
No, we couldn't. But part of that is because the AL always wins.
Got to have Jan Gervis Solarte, your boy, talking about how great he was going to be.
I miss Jan Gervis.
Gio Urshela.
And well, he was acquired in a trade from Cleveland.
Yes.
And don't forget Greg Bird with an I, right? Who's
How else would you spell Bird?
BYRD is usually people's name.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'll just have to live with having Aaron Jones and Juan Soto in my outfield this year.
Aaron Jones?
He's not a...
Aaron Judge. Jeez.
Okay.
Still in football mode, apparently. I thought I'd moved on. I have not.
Haven't. You need to get with the times, Corey. It's baseball season.
Almost.
In February.
23 days away.
What's Giancarlo Stanton doing? Is he on the Yankees
He's still on the team.
Nursing an injury.
Taking money and...
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we be done now? Are we done?
I don't have anything else to say.
I'm done. I don't have any shout-outs.
I'm hungry.
Evan's hungry. I have a half a cheesesteak to eat, so let's get out of here. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Next week, Evan will be calling the shots, which is perfect because he has to set some goofy tiebreaker for Corey and I to make our dumb prop bets where Corey's going to take all my money. So can't wait to hear how Evan makes it all about him, and we talk about the Super Bowl. Until then, take it easy.